My husband never comes home, but he transfers $50,000 every month for my expenses. No kids, no annoying in-laws to deal with. My life is incredibly great. My best friend and I had a date with some male models. Just as we were about to leave, the housekeeper ran up to me, panicked. "Bad news, ma'am. The mister is bringing his special friend home." I grinned from ear to ear. "Clean everything. Make sure everything is perfect." The housekeeper looked shocked. "Ma'am, she's an intruder." I corrected her right away, firmly adjusting her bad attitude. "What intruder? She's his guest. In this day and age, husbands like Ethan Blackwell, who only send money and never come home, are rare. As long as the $50,000 hits my account on time, I don't miss him one bit. Why would I? Aren't the 20-something models handsome enough, fun enough, or lacking in energy? They're too exciting. Right? Mrs. Thompson, I'm heading out first. Make sure the guest is comfortable." Mrs. Thompson froze. "Ma'am, where are you going?" "To give them space, of course. I can't be the third wheel in my own house." I grabbed my new Chanel bag, turned around, and left, not forgetting to wave goodbye. It's not that I don't want to host them. Mostly I'm afraid of being a bother to the VIPs. Absolutely not, because my best friend Chloe already booked 10 models and I'm escaping having to welcome the girl. I glanced sideways at the housekeeper behind me and trotted quickly toward the van parked at the gate. "My loves, I'm on my way." When I opened the door and saw 2 top-tier models, my mood shot through the roof. Chloe pushed a guy toward me, a little confused. "Serena, didn't you say your husband was coming home today? You're still daring to go out and have fun?" I said, while giving the guy in front of me a few pats on the arm. "Go? Why not go?" He brought his guest back. "It would be rude of me to hang around in front of them, right? Oh my God, it feels so good. Besides, how could a husband be as much fun as these guys?" The car started, and the clear voice of the guy next to me reached my ears. "Big sister really knows how to live. The drink's already ready. Want one?" I smiled happily at the guy, took the drink from his hand, and downed it all. Young voices are sweeter, unlike older men who are hard everywhere except in their words. After several drinks, I drank too fast. The wind coming through the window was cool and comforting. I got a little dizzy, leaning on the guy's shoulder. Everything was perfect, like being in seventh heaven. Just when I was lost in it, the sudden sound of the phone brought me back to reality. I pouted. I hate parties being interrupted, but still prepared to answer. A familiar male voice came through the phone. "Serena Brooks? Where are you right now?" Since I'd just been drinking, I was still distracted and didn't check the caller ID. I answered arrogantly, not recognizing who it was for a moment. "Who's this?" "Big sister is having fun." Silence on the other end. Just when I was about to hang up because of how strange it felt, I heard 2 words squeezed out through clenched teeth. "Your husband." Damn, it's Ethan Blackwell. The word husband was like a bucket of ice water over me, snapping me completely alert. I laughed awkwardly. "Honey, why aren't you asleep this late?" I looked at the time and clicked my tongue. His friend is terrible company or Ethan is boring. It's only 11 p.m. and they're already done. Where did you go? I was about to invent an excuse when I heard a female voice on the phone, delicate and weak, sounding pitiful. "Mr. Blackwell, can we start already?" "It's fine. I'm coming right away." Ethan seemed to cover the mic. His voice sounded faint, like there was a secret he didn't want me to hear, but I didn't want to hear it at all. Even if I'm open-minded, I'm not open-minded enough to listen to my husband flirting with another girl. So they still haven't started? "Don't worry, honey. I'll stay at a hotel tonight. I won't bother them." Without waiting for a reply, I hung up directly. Chloe turned to look at me. "What? Your husband controlling you?" I put the phone down, gave the model a friendly tap, and spoke lightly. "No. He just told me not to come home and bother them. Forget it. Let's keep playing." The next day, I deliberately waited until the afternoon to return, afraid of coming back too early before they woke up and ruining their good time. The moment I walked in, I felt a chill in the house. I wanted to call Mrs. Thompson. When I looked up, I found my husband, Ethan, sitting on the sofa. His face was dark, his eyes cold enough to freeze people. "So you know how to come back?" Suddenly, I had a bad feeling. I'm in trouble. The girl didn't entertain him well. He's taking it out on the wife. Even though I rolled my eyes internally, I had to keep up appearances. I walked toward my husband with a standard 8-tooth smile and sat down obediently. "What's wrong, honey?" Ethan's hand on his leg tapped rhythmically, looking at me lazily. "What? You don't want me here?" I quickly moved closer, hugging his arm coquettishly with a delicate laugh. "How could I do that? I wish my love could come home more often to keep me company. I feel so lonely at home." You can come home, but please don't come suddenly, I thought resentfully, but kept smiling on the surface. My love must have worked hard last night. I'll ask Mrs. Thompson to prepare soup for you tonight so you can recover. I massaged his shoulders and arms like a flatterer, taking the chance to look for lipstick marks under his shirt. If there aren't any, fine. If there are, I'll pretend not to see them. Anyway, he gives me enough allowance. A woman has to make do and always keep the mentality of America's best wife. Get ready. Come with me to the old mansion for dinner today. I slapped my forehead. I had so much fun last night that I forgot today was the day to visit Grandma Blackwell. Grandma treats me very well. She was the one who chose me among many candidates. Otherwise, I'd just be an ordinary person, unable to have this carefree life. Even though there's no affection between Ethan and me, I always treat Grandma Blackwell like my own family. After changing, I saw Ethan leaning against the doorframe. His long, bony hands played with a white box. He looked at me. Give me your hand. I was confused, but obeyed. I can't let my sponsor stay mad. Suddenly, I felt something cold on my wrist. Looking down, I had an exquisitely made bracelet on my wrist. It looks expensive. Gift from a business partner. Don't overthink it. Before I could react, he left the dressing room. I ran after him, pouring out sweet words. Oh, my love is so good to me. I love you so much. Ethan didn't even look at me. Act normal. I rubbed the bracelet, thinking about his motive. Does this man feel guilty for having a friend outside? So he's compensating me with jewelry? If so, go find a few more outside. I don't care at all if my closet fills up with expensive jewelry. Thinking this, I smiled radiantly. Ethan grew impatient, and seeing I wasn't getting in the car, he hurried me. Are you coming or not? I quickly got in and sat beside him, silent the whole way. But the tension surrounding Ethan since morning had disappeared. The old mansion is close to where we live. When the car stopped, I opened the door myself. Just as I was about to get out, Ethan grabbed me. Behave yourself tonight. Grandma is older. She can't handle your craziness. He reminded me for a reason. Last time I brought Grandma an intense romance novel. The result? The butler caught Grandma reading under the covers in the middle of the night. The old lady, with presbyopia, held a phone to light with one hand and the book far away with the other, squinting and reading with difficulty. Honey, how can you think that of me? I've always behaved well. I made a shy gesture. Ethan turned his head, as if I were ugly. I hope so. I rolled my eyes. Only his little friend is nice to look at. I turned and ran toward the villa. Grandma, I'm here. Oh, Serena is finally here. It's been so long since you came to chat with this old lady. I hugged Grandma's arm, acting like a spoiled child. I'm here already. Grandma couldn't wait to take me to the sofa. Quick, keep telling me the story of the dominant CEO who falls in love with the kind girl. Ethan followed us in a bad mood, glaring at me from time to time. Grandma, those things are nonsense. Read less. Grandma wasn't happy, turning to look at Ethan seriously. What? At my age? You want your grandma to go to college? I hid behind Grandma, feeling justified. These are my bedtime reads. I read them every night. How can he say that? Ethan saw me sticking my tongue out from behind Grandma. His expression was pure frustration. I retreated while I was winning, pulling from my bag the novel I'd prepared. Grandma, this time I brought another one. It's called The Complicated Love of the CEO. The next second, Ethan dragged me out. Serena Brooks, if you teach Grandma these things again, I'll show you what a complicated problem means. He emphasized the word complicated. Grandma's worried voice came from inside. Serena, is Ethan bothering you? Ethan looked back, clenching his teeth at me. If you dare say nonsense, you lose half your allowance. I immediately chickened out. Who understands me? This is my Achilles heel. I cleared my throat and answered, shouting with a smile. How could you think that, Grandma? My little love is the one who treats me best. Ethan let me go, glared at me threateningly one more time, and went in. During dinner, Grandma kept glancing at Ethan and me. Grandma looking at me like that makes me embarrassed to eat. What do you mean? Grandma put down her bowl and chopsticks, sighed, and finally spoke after a while. I was thinking about Mrs. Brennan's granddaughter next door. She's so cute, always calling me Grandma Lynn. She's so sweet when she talks and feels so adorable. Ethan and I realized the old lady wants a great-grandchild. I tugged Ethan, asking what to do. He put down his bowl and took my hand. Serena is still young. Having kids soon isn't ideal. In a few years, Serena said she wants to have twins to keep you company. I looked at him in shock, mouthing words silently at Ethan. When did I say I wanted twins? Ethan glared at me furiously, applying force to my hand, hurting me. Who told you not to come home yesterday? I tried to control my distorted expression and pulled my hand back. I thought that was over. I didn't expect him to bring it up here. This man is so petty. I gave him and his guest their space, and he's unhappy. Grandma was smiling from ear to ear. Good, good. Grandma will try to live a few more years, waiting for our Serena to have twins to keep this old lady company. On the way back, I ignored Ethan completely. When we got to the door, I tried to get out, but found it was locked. I turned angrily toward Ethan. Open the door. Ethan looked at me calmly. No emotion in his deep eyes. Why are you angry? In a fit of rage, I let my thoughts out all at once. You told Grandma I wanted twins. It's not even certain if we'll still be together or not. And you're talking about kids. If you like twins, go find your friend to have them. Serena Brooks. Ethan suppressed his discomfort, pinning me against the seat. The pressure dropped to freezing point. I immediately chickened out, not daring to speak. Unless I say separation, you can never escape in this lifetime. Click. The door unlocked. Ethan got out and slammed the door shut. I bit my lip hard, holding back tears. This stubborn man dared to yell at me. I got out and went into the house. Bang! I slammed the bedroom door without even looking at Ethan. Lying in bed that night, thinking about him cutting my allowance, I tossed and turned, then sat up suddenly. No, is he sick? Suddenly, a notification sound. Account received $50,000. Okay, I'm the one who's wrong. Seeing the zeros in the balance, I lay back down calmly. Ethan sent a message. I was too hard today. Business trip tomorrow, 1 week. My bad mood healed instantly. Shopping in the morning, going out with friends at night. Life is good. But the facts prove one shouldn't be too arrogant. Because I had too much fun this week, I got a fever. Serena, come party. Some new very fun friends just arrived. My voice was hoarse, sounding like a duck. I can't go out, I'm almost fried. Then I'll send you a kind friend to take care of you. Clearly, Chloe understands me, but she doesn't understand my husband. Don't do it, I'm just sick, not ready to go to the other side. Even though I party like crazy, I don't have the guts to bring guests home. Chloe hung up at some point, and I slept dazed for who knows how long, until someone touched my forehead. Why are you so hot? I thought Chloe had ignored my advice and sent a guy, so I didn't open my eyes. I was afraid he'd be too charismatic to reject. Handsome, even if you're very lively. Today really isn't a good time. If you don't leave, it won't just be me in trouble. Wait until I'm better, then I'll look for you. Be a good boy. I pushed him while talking. Serena Brooks, you're bringing visitors behind my back. The cold voice was too familiar. I sat up with a start. Honey, my face was red as a ripe tomato from the fever. He sighed and asked coldly, Did you take medicine? I nodded obediently, feeling the fever dissipate from the scare. Rest first. You'll explain when you're better. Okay. Severe scolding commuted to probation. When I opened my eyes the next morning, I saw Ethan coming out of my bathroom. The water, still not dry, flowed down his chest to his abdomen. I have to say Ethan's looks are better than any magazine model. Besides that handsome face that charms thousands of girls. Wipe your face. I quickly wiped my face, found nothing, and realized belatedly that he'd tricked me. Honey, why are you here? I played with my fingers, asking guiltily. Don't panic. Play dumb first. Maybe he forgot. He came closer, resting his hands beside my pillow, trapping me on the bed, close enough to smell his lotion. His hair wasn't dry and cold water dripped onto my shoulder. He gently wiped the drop. This vain man, distracting my mind early in the morning. What? Weren't you yelling yesterday about looking for handsome guys when you got better? I have to see what kind of friends my little woman likes. I reflected on his words. Why do they sound so jealous? I decided the best strategy was to attack with total innocence. I'm good at that. Years of practice. Honey, I don't know what you're talking about. I was delirious from the fever. Don't hold me responsible for what I say in that state. He stared at me for exactly 3 seconds. Ethan Blackwell has that habit. When he doesn't believe you, he looks at you exactly 3 seconds before answering. I know because I've timed it. Delirious? It wasn't a question. It was a statement loaded with sarcasm. Completely. I was burning alive. I didn't even know who I was. I sat up in bed with my most languid expression, blinking slowly as if I were still semi-conscious. A little acting never hurts anyone. He straightened up, crossed his arms, and observed me with that expression of his that I can't decipher. Neither cold nor warm, simply evaluative. Serena. Yes, my love. If I ever find a man in my house, there won't be next month's allowance. I swallowed. Understood. And the month after? Crystal clear. And maybe the year. Hey, that's excessive. He sketched something that in another man I'd call a smile. But in Ethan Blackwell, it's simply called an ambiguous gesture that keeps me awake wondering what it means. Rest. He headed to the door, then stopped without turning. Breakfast is on the nightstand. I looked, indeed. Ginger rice congee, fresh orange juice, 2 acetaminophen pills, and a note with my dosage written in impeccable handwriting. I stared at that for a full minute. This man has a mistress outside, yelled at me the night before, and leaves me breakfast prepared with medical instructions included. Someone explained the logic to me because I've been trying for 4 years and still don't understand. I decided not to overthink. I took the pills, ate the congee, and sent him a thank you message with 3 heart emojis because I'm an exemplary wife when it suits me. He didn't reply. Typical. The business trip lasted exactly 9 days instead of 7. I didn't ask why. Chloe and I took advantage of every free hour with a devotion that would make any hedonist cry with pride. Spas, dinners, catalog models who know how to mix cocktails and have the kindness not to talk too much. The perfect life. But on day 10, something changed. It started with a call from Mrs. Thompson at 7 in the morning, an hour when no sane woman should be awake. "Ma'am, sorry to bother you, but the young lady was here last night." I sat up in bed. "What young lady?" There was an uncomfortable pause of the kind that precedes bad news. "The mistress, ma'am, was on the property. She entered with a key." I processed that information. I repeat, she entered with a key. It's not that I care about the mistress. We already established that. But entering my house with her own key is a level of nerve that deserves academic recognition. That's not a discreet mistress. That's a replacement candidate operating in stealth mode. I'm open-minded. I'm not stupid. Did she touch anything? She checked the Mr. Study, ma'am. And another pause. She left clothes in the guest room closet. I stayed very still, the kind of stillness that precedes a calculated decision. "Very well, Mrs. Thompson. Thank you for letting me know. Have a good day." I hung up. I lay back on the pillows, looking at the ceiling, gears turning in silence. Ethan Blackwell delivers. Transfers on time, doesn't interfere in my life, doesn't bring domestic drama. Those were the tacit conditions of this marriage from day one. I close my eyes to the mistress. He keeps up appearances and pays my expenses. Clean system, efficient, mutually beneficial. But a woman who enters my house with her own key and leaves clothes in the guest closet is not being discreet. She's marking territory, and I'm very territorial about what's mine, even if what's mine is a marriage of convenience with a man who is as romantic to me as a tax contract. I called Chloe. I need a favor. Legal or questionable? Informative. Chloe has contacts everywhere. Don't ask how or why. She simply has them. Like some people have plants or stamp collections, but infinitely more useful. I need to know who Ethan's mistress is. Name, profession, history. Since when do you care? I don't care. I need to know who I'm sharing the entry code to my house with. Silence. Then, "I'll call you in 2 hours." Chloe called in 40 minutes, which means the information was easy to get, which means this woman hasn't been as discreet as I thought. Her name is Vivian Hart. 27 years old, model turned corporate image consultant, which we all know means nothing concrete. She's been with Ethan for 9 months. And Serena? I noticed the tone. "Tell me, people are talking. They say Ethan wants to divorce, that he's waiting for the right moment." I remained silent. "Serena, I'm here. Are you okay?" I did a quick inventory of my emotions. Pain? No. Surprise? Neither. A strange and specific sensation that I didn't know how to classify, and that definitely wasn't jealousy, because I don't fall in love with men who don't even invite me to breakfast. Maybe. Just maybe. I'm perfectly fine, and I meant it. Almost. "Hey, Chloe. Do you remember the bracelet Ethan gave me last week? The one you said looked expensive. That same one. Find out who designs it." "For what? Curiosity?" It wasn't curiosity. It was a hunch. And my hunches have an impressive track record of being right. 3 hours later, Chloe sent me a photo by message. The bracelet. And underneath, the workshop name. A boutique jewelry store in the financial district specialized in promise pieces. The kind of jewel men give when they're about to ask someone for something important. I stared at the screen for a time I'm not going to publicly admit. Ethan Blackwell gave me a renewed commitment bracelet the same day his mistress left clothes in my house. By accident? Out of guilt? or because Ethan Blackwell, underneath all that calculated coldness, is playing a much more complicated game than I had assumed. I smiled slowly. Interesting, because if there's something I know how to do, besides spending money with elegance, it's play, and I just decided it's time to learn the rules of my husband's game. The first step was to stop pretending I didn't care. Not because I cared about Ethan in the romantic sense of the word. Please, I'm a practical woman. But there are things that matter to any person with 2 brain cells. Her stability, her position, her future. And if Vivian Hart was moving pieces on the board, I needed to know exactly what game was being played. I started with the most obvious: observing. During the following week, I was the perfect wife. Punctual at dinners when Ethan was home. Attentive, discreet, charming with his partners. I saved my going out plans for the days he traveled. And when he was present, I became exactly what was expected of me. Decorative, pleasant, and apparently without a single neuron dedicated to strategy. People who think they're smarter than you lower their guard very quickly. Ethan was no exception. It was at one of those dinners that my ally appeared. I wasn't expecting her. The best allies never announce themselves. Her name was Dr. Margaret Sullivan, founding partner of the firm that handled the corporate contracts of Blackwell Industries. 62 years old, silver hair cut with military precision, and the sharpest gaze I've seen outside an operating room. They introduced her to me as an old family friend, which in the lexicon of the rich means someone who knows all their secrets and chose to stay quiet until now. The dinner was impeccable. I was impeccable. But when Ethan got up to take a call, Margaret leaned slightly toward me with her Bordeaux glass in hand, as if making a casual toast. "You're smarter than he thinks, right?" I looked at her. "Excuse me? Don't play dumb." She took a sip. "I've been in corporate law for 40 years. I know when someone is acting and when they're calculating. You've been doing both simultaneously all night. It's quite impressive." I didn't answer immediately. Rule number 1 when someone offers you a hand in unknown territory: don't take it without first knowing where it leads. "What do you want, Dr. Sullivan?" She smiled. It was the smile of someone who likes being spoken to directly. "I want you to survive what's coming, for reasons that for now are mine." She lowered the glass. "Vivian Hart is not just your husband's mistress. She's the daughter of Han Hart, the only real competitor Blackwell Industries has in Asia. And they've been building something for 9 months that has nothing to do with love." The atmosphere in the room dropped about 3 degrees. What kind of something? A covert merger. If Ethan marries Vivian, the assets of both companies consolidate under a new structure. You're the only legal obstacle left. Deliberate pause. And obstacles in business have the bad habit of disappearing in very convenient ways. Ethan returned to the table at that moment. Margaret raised her glass toward him with a perfect, charming elderly lady smile, and I did the same, laughing at the exact right moment at a joke no one had told. We're both very good actresses. That night I didn't sleep. Not from fear, from planning. Ethan didn't just want to divorce, he wanted to position himself. And for that, he needed me out of the scene in the cleanest, fastest, and quietest way possible. The generous allowance, the jewelry, the freedom without questions, everything clicked at once like the pieces of a puzzle that had been assembled right in front of my nose for 4 years. He was keeping me comfortable, distracted, and dependent. Brilliant. Really brilliant. I almost felt admiration. Almost. I called Margaret at 7 in the morning. "How much time do I have?" "Ethan has a meeting with the Hart lawyers in 17 days. After that, the process will be impossible to stop. What do I need to stop it?" "Proof of the covert merger, communications, preliminary contracts, any document that shows the marriage to Vivian was planned as a corporate maneuver. With that, any judge would void the prenup in your favor and give you a negotiating position Ethan couldn't ignore. Where would those documents be?" "In the study of your house, most likely." Ethan is methodical. He doesn't work with external servers for his most delicate matters. The study, the same one Vivian had checked when she entered with her borrowed key. I breathed slowly. "Dr. Sullivan, why are you helping me?" Brief silence. "Because I've known Grandma Blackwell for 50 years, and she asked me to look after you." I hung up the phone and stayed looking at the bracelet on my wrist. The promise bracelet Ethan had put on me with his own hands. Promise pieces. How ironic. During the following days, I was the kindest ghost in the house. I smiled, cooked with Mrs. Thompson, arranged flowers. I asked Ethan about his work with the fake interest of a devoted wife who understands nothing about business. And every night, when he locked himself in the study, I memorized his routines with the precision of a surgeon. How long he spent inside, what time he came out, if he left the door locked or just closed. Closed. Always closed, never locked. Because men who believe their wives are decorative don't feel the need to secure their secrets. On day 12, I found what I was looking for, not in the study, In the inside pocket of the jacket Ethan had left on the dining chair, with the casual distraction of someone who has never had reasons to be careful in his own house, a secondary phone. I held it for exactly 4 seconds, then I put it back in the exact place it was, with the same angle, the same depth, and smiled. Because the 4 years of apparent innocence had served for something fundamental. Ethan Blackwell had no idea who he was married to. That night, while we were having dinner in silence, he looked up from the newspaper and looked at me in that way of his, evaluative and cold. "You've been very quiet lately." I raised my eyes with a beatific expression. "It's because I'm happy, honey. Isn't that what you wanted?" He observed me a second longer than usual, and just when I thought something in him had changed, that maybe he intuited what was moving under my smile, his phone rang. The official one. He looked at it, stood up without saying anything, and went out to the garden. I was left alone at the table. I looked at the bracelet on my wrist, looked at the jacket on the chair, and thought about something Margaret had told me almost in passing, as if it weren't important, but that since then I hadn't been able to get out of my head. The prenup has a clause that Ethan never explained to you. If you find it, everything changes. I looked at the bracelet again and suddenly, with the brutal clarity of someone who just saw something that was always there, I understood. The bracelet wasn't a guilt gift. It wasn't a compensation gesture. It was the key. Literally. The boutique jewelry that manufactured promise pieces also manufactured something else. According to their discreet catalog, which Margaret sent me by email that same night, with a single line attached, "Look at Model 7C. Some of their most exclusive pieces incorporated Swiss precision mechanisms in the clasp, not as ornament, as function. They were keys to custom-made safes, camouflaged in luxury jewelry for clients who preferred that their most valuable assets not look like valuable assets." I stared at the bracelet for an indecent amount of time. Ethan had put it on my wrist with his own hands, looking me in the eyes, with that expression of his that I had never quite known how to read, and I had spent days assuming it was guilt, or compensation, or some more ambiguous gesture in the long catalog of ambiguous gestures of Ethan Blackwell. It turned out to be the most important piece of the puzzle. The question was, why? I saved that question for later. First, execute. I waited for Thursday. Thursday was the only day of the week Ethan left early and didn't return before 10 at night. Board meetings at the central building, then dinner with partners, then whatever he did after that, and that I had never asked because I genuinely didn't want to know. Mrs. Thompson took the day off. The cleaning staff came on Wednesdays. The house was completely mine. At 9 in the morning, I entered the study. It was the first time in 4 years that I crossed that door without Ethan present. The room smelled like him. Paper, cedar, and something cold that had no name. Floor-to-ceiling shelves, files ordered with almost obsessive precision, a desk that cost more than my first apartment, and on the wall behind the desk, hidden behind a wood panel that fit so perfectly into the structure that I had never noticed it, a safe. I found it in 4 minutes. Margaret had told me where to look. I approached. I took the bracelet off my wrist. I held it over the closing mechanism with a hand that, I admit, wasn't completely steady. Click. It opened. Inside there were 3 folders, an unmarked envelope, and an additional phone, different from the one I already knew existed. I took photographs of everything with my phone. Every page, every document, every header. Then I closed everything exactly as it was, put the bracelet back on, and left the study, leaving the door at the same angle I had found it. I sat on the living room sofa with my legs crossed and reviewed what I had captured. I didn't need to read too much to understand the magnitude of what I had in my hands. The agreement was elegant, like everything Ethan did. 9 months of documented negotiations between Blackwell Industries and the Hart Group. A merger structured in 3 phases, the last of which depended on a specific condition: the dissolution of the marriage between Ethan Blackwell and Serena Brooks before the first day of the 4th fiscal quarter, with date, with deadlines, with contractual penalties if not fulfilled. My divorce was a business clause. I read it twice to be sure I understood correctly. I understood perfectly. I called Margaret. I found it. Everything, including the merger contract with the deadlines. Good. I heard the sound of keys in the background. Send me the photographs now. My team needs to authenticate them before we can use them. How long will it take? 48 hours. Ethan's meeting with the Hart lawyers is in 5 days. I know. We have time. A pause. Serena, you did well. Now comes the hard part. Which, behave exactly the same as before for the next 5 days. I hung up. I looked at the ceiling. I breathed. Exactly the same as before. I can do that. I've been doing it for 4 years. The next 5 days were the longest of my life, not from fear, from acting effort. Because Ethan, who habitually paid me the same attention as the furniture, suddenly started looking at me more frequently than normal, not with suspicion, with something I didn't know how to classify, and that was deeply inconvenient at that specific moment. On day 3, he arrived home earlier than expected, with 2 bags from a ceviche place I had mentioned in passing 3 weeks earlier, in a conversation he apparently wasn't listening to. "You said you wanted to try this place." I stood in the hallway holding one of the bags without knowing what to do with that information. "You remembered?" I have a good memory. He went to the kitchen. I stayed in the hallway 10 seconds longer than necessary. This man. This damn complicated man. I had dinner with him without saying too much. He didn't say too much either. But at some point during the dinner, while I was looking at my plate pretending the ceviche absorbed all my attention, he spoke. "Serena, yes. Are you okay?" I looked at him. He had the usual expression, but something in the tone was different. More direct, less calculated. I smiled with all the warmth that 4 years of practice had taught me to manufacture. "Perfectly fine, honey." "Why do you ask?" He looked at me 2 more seconds, then went back to his plate. "For nothing. That night I couldn't sleep. Not because of the documents or the plan or Margaret or Vivian Hart and her ambition to use my husband as a corporate trampoline. I couldn't sleep because I was thinking about why Ethan had given me the key. If the bracelet opened his safe and he had put it on my wrist, there were 2 possibilities. 1, he didn't know I would discover it. 2, he knew perfectly. And I didn't know which of the 2 unsettled me more. On day 4, Vivian Hart made her first mistake. She arrived at the offices of Blackwell Industries without an appointment and asked to meet with Ethan regarding an urgent personal matter. The receptionist, by protocol, notified the assistant team. One of them, who had been with the company for 7 years and had the silent loyalty of someone who has seen too much, sent a message to Margaret. Margaret called me 10 minutes later. "Vivian is pressing. She wants to accelerate the calendar." "Why?" "Because someone told her the safe documents had been accessed." Pause. "The mechanism records every opening, Serena. Ethan knows." The silence between us lasted exactly 3 seconds. When did he know? "This morning. Vivian wants them to move the meeting with the Hart lawyers to tomorrow." I processed it. Tomorrow. Not in 5 days. Tomorrow. "Do we have what we need?" "My team finished the authentication an hour ago." "Yes, we have everything." I breathed. "Then let them move the meeting up. Serena." "Let them move it up, Margaret. I'm ready." I hung up. I looked at the bracelet on my wrist one last time, like someone contemplating a weapon before using it. Ethan Blackwell had spent 4 years believing he had me perfectly controlled. Tomorrow he was going to discover that he himself had given me all the tools to destroy him, or to save him. I still hadn't decided which of the 2. The meeting was called for 10 in the morning in the main boardroom of Blackwell Industries. I arrived at 9:45. Margaret had gotten me access as personal legal representative of Mrs. Blackwell, which was completely valid and completely unexpected for everyone present. The assistant who registered me at reception blinked twice when she saw my name, then discreetly picked up the phone to notify someone. I didn't care. Let them notify. I sat in the waiting room with my Chanel bag on my knees, legs crossed, and the bracelet clearly visible on my wrist, shining under the corporate light as if it knew exactly what it was worth. At 5 to 10, Vivian Hart entered the building. She was exactly as I had imagined her. 27 years of perfect bones, impeccable clothes, and the specific confidence of someone who believes she's already won before the game starts. She saw me in the waiting room and stopped for a second, just a second, before recomposing her expression. "Serena Brooks?" "The same." I smiled with all my teeth. What a lucky coincidence. It wasn't a coincidence, and we both knew it. Ethan arrived at 10 on the dot. He saw me from the boardroom door, and for the first time in 4 years, I saw him genuinely surprised. It wasn't an expression that suited him. It made him look human, which was disturbing at this point. "Serena, what are you doing here?" "I came to my husband's meeting, honey." I stood up, took my bag. Isn't that what supportive wives do? Margaret appeared behind me with her briefcase and her silver hair, and her 62 years of legal experience radiating authority from every pore. "Good morning, Ethan. I will represent Mrs. Blackwell's interests in this meeting. The Hart lawyers are already inside." The silence that followed lasted exactly 4 seconds. Then Ethan looked at me. Not with fury, with something that took a moment to identify, with resignation. The meeting lasted less than an hour. Margaret presented the authenticated documents with the clinical calm of someone who has dismantled empires before lunch. Merger contract, internal communications, deadlines, penalties, everything. The The condition that made Serena Brooks's divorce a binding contractual clause was left on the table in front of the Hart lawyers as what it was: evidence of collusion, marital manipulation, and potentially civil fraud. The Hart lawyers went very still. Vivian went very pale. I kept my hands on my lap and the bracelet on my wrist, and my best decorative wife smile that understands nothing about business. Evidently, Margaret said in the tone of someone reading the daily menu, any merger agreement conditioned on the forced dissolution of a marriage is challengeable on several fronts. We can proceed through the courts, in which case media coverage will be inevitable, given the public profile of both families. Pause. Or we can find a private solution today. The decision is yours. The main Hart lawyer looked at Vivian. Vivian looked at Ethan. Ethan looked at me. I looked at the bracelet. The private solution took 40 minutes of negotiation. The merger agreement was suspended indefinitely. Vivian Hart left the room without saying anything to me, which I appreciated because I don't have the habit of talking to people who have lost and still don't fully know it. When the room was empty, Ethan and I were left alone for the first time in 4 years, without any pretext in between. He stood by the window, looking at the city, with that posture of his, of an expensive statue. When did you find out? About the secondary phone? 12 days ago. I stood up. About the bracelet? 4 days ago. And the safe? Day 12 as well. I approached him slowly. Ethan, why did you give me the key? He turned, and for the second time that day, I saw him with an expression that wasn't his usual one. This one was harder to read than the surprise. It was older, more tired, because Hart was pressing, and I couldn't find a way out that didn't destroy you. He paused, and I decided that if anyone could find it, it was you. I stayed completely still. You gave me the key because you knew I would investigate. I gave you the key because you're the only person in my life who doesn't act out of fear. He looked at me fixedly. And I needed someone without fear. 4 years. 4 years of allowances and distance and fake mistresses and silent dinners and breakfast on the nightstand and ceviche remembered in passing. And underneath all that, this man had been waiting for me to stop pretending to be decorative. I breathed slowly. You're incredibly hard to love, Ethan Blackwell. I know. And he has a mistress. Had. Vivian was part of the agreement with Hart from the beginning. He looked at me. There was never anything real. I processed it. Then I processed it again because it deserved 2 passes. The mistress was corporate? Yes. And the freedom you gave me? The models? The generous allowance? So you wouldn't ask too many questions while I solved the problem. A very brief pause. It didn't turn out as I planned. I let out a laugh. I couldn't help it. It was a short, genuine, completely involuntary laugh, the kind that can't be manufactured with 4 years of acting practice. Ethan looked at me as if he didn't know what to do with that. You have humor at the worst possible moment? It's one of my best attributes. I wiped the corner of my eye. Hey, Ethan. What? If you had simply talked to me 9 months ago, I would have helped you for free, without need for bracelets or safes. Silence. I didn't know I could ask you that. You didn't know because you never tried. We looked at each other for a moment that lasted longer than calculable. Then he diverted his eyes to the bracelet on my wrist. Are you going to return it? I looked at it. It shone the same as always. Key, jewel, weapon, evidence. All things at once, like almost everything in this marriage. No. I turned it on my wrist. I earned it. That night, we had dinner at home. Without pretexts, without peace ceviche, without calculated silence. For the first time in 4 years, Ethan Blackwell spoke to me as if I were a whole person, not pleasant furniture. And I answered him without the 8-tooth smile or exemplary wife voice. It was strange. It was uncomfortable. It was honestly the best dinner I remember. I'm not going to tell you that everything was resolved that night. I'm not one of those. Marriages don't rebuild in one dinner, and cold men don't become warm all at once because someone unmasked them in a boardroom. But I will tell you this. The woman who depends on someone else's money so she doesn't ask uncomfortable questions is not free. She's comfortable, which is a much more sophisticated trap. Real freedom looks more like the moment you decide to investigate the bracelet, enter the study, and sit in that meeting without anyone having invited you. Sometimes life puts the key on your wrist from the beginning. The question isn't whether we have it. The question is when we decide to use it. I took 4 years, but I got there.